dynamic, academic, seek lessons, that which you better believe, read into it to see. Your intuitive demeans demand an innate reasoning to breathe and take a deep reason and try to get some a business running risk of catching what the rich run, rolling further back, holding future stacks. Your attack, yeah, fuck it, man, the axe swamp will hit. What's more important to choose? Who's more in it than you? And there's so much more to lose. You're too ignorant, confused to refuse to help reuse the news you've queued up on the television, now used for fun. Now you don't believe it, you're a puppet on what everything you read, what you see. Better yet, make ends meet on either end. See the weak defense freeze. Whether you seek amends and need no critique, and then peace and never again to return. Remember the fire will burn. One more reliant with words. If I know what hers came to terms with the ever-present mediocrity, such hypocrisy to try and stop the conquering of honesty, but obviously don't get lost and see the promise be locked inside with lots of keys. Some can be caught shuffling, muttering, utter confusion about the crux and suffering. Good luck in unlocking them boxes, otherwise shown as a heart where another can see the beat stop in one. Leave my mark on his plan. I was born to take out on his plan. I was mark on his plan. I was born, leave my mark on his plan. I was born to take out.
Possible to free the self of the burden of the love of things. It is a powerful lesson indeed. It is not that the one known as Buddha scorned money, but that the one known as Siddhartha was not imprisoned by attaching himself to a desire for it. Where there was no desire, there was no longer a use for that catalyst, and with his whole heart and mind, the one known as Gautama gently and firmly said, "Not this," to each thing he encountered in the world. It is a very helpful concept to separate the things of the world from attachment to the things of the world. The Buddha did not have to preach the evils of the things of the world. He simply did not desire them. To an entity swamped in desires, some of them conflicting, this freedom is precious, and the way of the Buddha very, very helpful. It is sometimes very difficult to separate entities such as Jesus the Christ or Siddhartha the Buddha from the institutions and cultural expectations that have grown up about these entities after their deaths. They have no control over what happens. They are no longer of this density. And those of this density intent upon influence and power have systematically attempted to alter the mystical teachings of these two leaders to approximate something that can make money and be sustainable. Therefore, if you wish to follow either entity, it is well to look for the source of teachings, to look for that which has been offered by these great teachers, rather than listening to the rhetoric of those who supposedly follow these teachers. To follow either of these two men is very difficult because of the confusion that has arisen over centuries of distortion. Yet it is entirely possible to win through to a relatively undistorted grasp of that which is offered by the one known as the Buddha. An entity needing to look more closely at the Buddha, just as an entity needing to look more closely at the one known as Jesus the Christ, needs to do a continuing and daily amount of inner work to support the attempt, and we recommend whatever form of entering The silence would be helpful to you in order to support the realizations that you are attempting to seat within your consciousness. Both the Christ and the Buddha vibrate at a certain energy. It is a similar energy. The heart of following either entity is to avail yourself of this vibration. As you avail yourself of this vibration, you become that which you are seeking to learn. And as you gradually are able to allow this understanding, shall we say, to penetrate into the very depths and roots of your mind and consciousness, you will be able to avoid the distortion that is rampant. At this time, we would ask if there's a follow-up to this query among those in this circle. Quote, M writes, when in communication with my higher self, it sometimes appears as though certain requests for information are not granted. You comment on the principle by which the higher self would choose to withhold information in some cases and not others. We are those of quo. We thank the one known as M for his query. My brother, the higher self can offer inspiration concerning the highest and best path to follow in an ethical situation. When asked concerning where the highest and best path is, there is a fairly reliable tendency for the higher self to be able to respond. However, the higher self is a guidance system, a resource left to you by yourself. It is not designed to do your thinking for you or to open paths that for one reason or another are not in your life path. Consequently, it may seem sometimes as though the higher self is not forthcoming. If the higher self, then, the guidance system that you trust, is not forthcoming on an issue, that will tell you something. That will tell you that you are in an area where you are asking more than that guidance system can offer. We see in this instrument's mind the ancient joke concerning the grandmother whose grandchild is playing at the shore. A huge wave comes and sweeps away the boy, and she is running up and down the shore pleading to God to bring the boy back. After several minutes of this prayer, the boy is dumped onto the shore, safe and sound. The grandmother rushes to him, checks him over from stem to stern, and then looks up at the sky and says, God, he had a hat. My brother, it may be possible that you will lose your hat. Storms come and suffering ensues. If you can stay in that fire of suffering and ask it for its gifts, out of that suffering will come spiritual maturity, lessons painfully but gratefully learned, and a success to that suffering. We would suggest that when the spirit within does not seem to be accommodating, it is well to review your attitudes, your assumptions, and your requests of the guidance system that you trust. Realize that it is bound by the law of confusion and give thanks for the guidance it is